Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. We're going to be covering over the top 10 best Pokemon TCG decks of the week. We have Worlds coming up next week. We've seen a lot of online events, and the metagame is settled pretty well heading into the World Championships. Whether you're playing in Locals, League Cups, or Worlds yourself, this video should be able to help you out. Smash that like button, share with your friends, and let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. Speaking about the comment section, you can get all of these lists available for copy and paste by checking out the pinned comments. There are spoilers there if you don't watch the video all the way till the end. Kicking it off at number 10, we have Ethan's Typhlosion. So dropping a little bit this week, and that's largely to the metagame having quite a bit of Dragapult and Gardevoir, two of this deck's toughest matchups. I think that Typhlosion kind of nestles in the lower half of the top 10, might settle in that 8, 9, 10 kind of slots. And right now I have it at 10 because I think other decks are just better positioned than it right now. Now, a lot of players are taking this deck to great success at League Cups, League Challenges. I see a lot of newer players. It's really fun going through Buddy Blast, and it's a relatively easy deck to play. It's great. Brave Bangle really adds a lot to this deck. This version's been working incredibly well, including adding in a switch just to have a little bit mobility so you're not trapped by your double retreat cost. So overall, I think this list is awesome. If you need any of the cards for this deck, check out our sponsors at Kayfabe Cards, PTCGL Store, and if you need to sleeve up your decks, check out Ultimate Guard. Let's see what we've got cooking for the rest of this list. Another deck that is lower this week than it was previously is Raging Bolt EX. I know the Raging Bolt EX fans are the loudest, and they're upset at me for two things. A, I don't put the regular straight up version of the version on my list. I think Noctowl is quite better. The online community thinks that it's better as well based off tournament results. Play one of the large online tournaments, bring it to your local cups, whatever you like. If you like Pokemon, play the deck the way you want it. The other reason why is because I placed it a little bit low. And I think that Raging Bolt, it just doesn't deserve the flowers that it receives a lot of the time. Sure, it's very aggressive with Bellowing Thunder, but the way that it's playing out in the metagame, it struggles to a lot of decks. And as we see players playing Koraidon or other fighting type Pokemon in their deck, they're struggling to Joltic Box, which is also surging in our metagame right now. So Raging Bolt, it's fine. It has a lot of neutral matchups, but I think it loses a lot to the top of the metagame, including having a struggle matchup against even decks like Ethan's Typhlosion. So as the metagame's adjusted for other decks, we have to realize that Raging Bolt might not always have the same positioning. And even though Black Bolt and White Flare didn't add too much, Raging Bolt didn't really change, so if anything, it just gained more worse matchups in the metagame, which of course is going to lower it to number 9. Now, number 9 is a little bit low right now, but I do think that Raging Bolt has a little bit of a stigma amongst top players, meaning that they're probably not going to be bringing it to the World Championships, meaning we're probably going to see a little bit less of this deck in the Master Division, but if you're in the Junior or Senior Division, I do expect Raging Bolt to be full on out there. Blazing into number 8 is Dragapult with Charizard EX. Now, we've seen this duo do wonders at the North American International Championships, and it's kind of the best of both worlds. We have that Recon Directive to kind of draw cards as necessary, but we also gain the option to use Phantom Dive. We've gone down one Dragapult EX using the Rowan Stave now version of his list, and we've gone up the Charizard line a little bit. So a little bit of a thicker Charizard line, thinner Dragapult line, just kind of peeling towards the metagame here. Now, we've added Air Balloon, one of the new cards in the decks. So Air Balloon, really going to be a lot of decks on this list, replacing Rescue Board. So if you haven't already picked up your Air Balloons, you can dig through your bulk. It's also from Sword and Shield. I think that this version of the deck is okay. And I think, like, it's one of those things where it's the most okayest Dragapult build out of all of them. Now, in the right metagame, this deck is awesome. If you don't know exactly what the metagame is, it's blind, this can really handle a lot of it. But where it gains that, it loses a lot in just having strong matchups in the right metagame. So it's kind of like you're doing your homework like 90% of the way there, and then the other 10%, you're not really gaining that better matchup spread that you are from playing straight Dragapult or Dragapult Dusnoir or straight Charizard. So while I think this build is certainly acceptable and it's a very strong deck, I can never take that away, I think it just does not really hit the mark the way that other Charizard or Dragapult decks really hit the mark. And here we have it, another Charizard EX deck. This version being Charizard EX with Pidgeot EX. Now, this version's slightly better positioned than it was previously because Gholdengo has been popping off. And you might be like, yo, Zach, this is a dark type deck. You don't get that type advantage, even though Charizard's attaching fire energies. But that's where Pokemon like Chi-Yu fit in this deck wonderfully, giving yourself an answer to both Gholdengo and Crustle decks that are becoming quite popular in the metagame. Having Pidgeot to quick search whatever you need at any given point gives you a lot of opportunities to just kind of pull whatever combo you want. So the consistency is here, and it's just Charizard. It's a deck that's been around for a while. People know it, people love it, and you can see we've swapped Rescue Board for Air Balloon so that you're able to get into those early game Clefas if necessary. Going with Cleffa over Badoo just because it's a little bit more, we just want to draw. As long as we set up, we should be okay. I could see this deck being quite popular at the World Championships. I know that there's a lot of different testing groups that have been experimenting with this version or with Dusnoir that have kind of been approaching for some assistance from me on coaching. So it is something to consider that Charizard EX is a little bit more popular than it might be showing online, but it's always been Charizard. Charizard's almost one of the most popular Pokemon all the time, so we'll have to see how it plays out at the World Championships. Coming in at the halfway point of our list is straight Dragapult. This version's incredibly similar to what Tord Rekliv played at the 2025 North American International Championships, and we've seen some lists play Hilda by cutting a Brock or a Turo or a Research, and we see some lists that just don't. In this case, we have a lot more energies than a traditional version of the list. Instead of going 3-2-1-1, they're going 4-2-2-1. So playing 2 extra energies, so you should be able to draw into them a little bit better whenever you need them. And we also have that thicker Dragapult line at 3 of them, opposed to only having 2, like a Pult Noir version of this list. The techs that we get are going to be an extra Monkey Dory and an extra well, just any copy of Maractus. So we have a little bit of techiness that goes here, but otherwise the deck is just pure Dragapult, and typically pure Dragapult's going to be doing the best against any of the other Dragapult lines, because when it comes to Mirror Match, or even if you're playing against Pult Noir Mirror Match, they can't really put those Duskulls down because they have the 60, so you can just go Phantom Dive and get an extra prize card. So meaning the fact that your deck is a little bit more bulkier on your lines and you have more energies, that's where it plays towards the matchup. And of course you have those Professor Turo scenario to take damage off the board. So if we see more Dragapult than anything, this deck could be a strong pick. However, it does struggle against other decks in the metagame, so you have to pick wisely when it comes to this one. Spiking the list this week is going to be Joltic Box. Now, Joltic Box has been an incredible deck for a while now, and it's glad to see that it's getting some of the flowers that it deserves. I mean, hey, I played this to the North American International Championships. All my friends made fun of me, and I technically went undefeated before I had to go 1-0 drop for a medical emergency. We're all better now, everything's fine. This deck gained Electric, being able to get some energy back from your discard pile. I've gone ahead with the builds and cut out the Lily's Clefairy and gone up the Bravery Charm like most of the other builds online right now. I think it's incredibly strong, and it's really one of those decks that has a solid matchup into Marnie's, Dragapult's, Charizard, and of course, it can go toe-to-toe with Gardevoir if your opponent's just having a little bit of a shaky setup. You're just able to kind of meet them with that Ampy very much, something that most decks don't want to face. This deck can be simple to play at base, but there's some complexities that a lot of people like slide underneath the surface. So keep your eyes peeled for this deck. I think we're going to see a lot more of it at the World Championships than previously expected. Sliding into number 4 and dropping down a little bit this week is Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX. I think that Marnie's Grimmsnarl is just one of those super consistent decks that really kind of came out of nowhere in the Destined Rivals format. Doesn't really gain anything outside of Air Balloon. So again, like most other decks on this list, we're going to be cutting the Rescue Board for an Air Balloon because it's just a slightly better card. But in terms of just matchups, I mean, you're okay into any evolution deck because of the Devo plays. And being a dark type stage 2 is going to be strong into a field where Gardevoir continues to exist. I think it's one of those things where it's easy to play at some levels, but also one of the more complex decks when it comes to using your Frost game plan across the board. Really using Piper Lapine's 60 from the North American International Championships as a base, we really know what this deck's supposed to look like. And I mean, there's those rival Marnie battle decks, so if you're trying to pick those up, it's a pretty easy deck to piece together at this time. At number 3, we have Gholdengo that's using its coin bonus more often than not. Previously, it was a Dragapult Gholdengo list that we had from last format. Now we have Genesect that's able to search out your Metal Evolution Pokemon. So we just need Dango to be drawing cards using Air Balloon to switch in between your Dangos to draw extra cards with coin bonus. One thing that I've done this week is included an extra copy of Cypher Maniacs Code Breaking. This is the deck that I played to 2 top 8 at League Cups this past weekend, and third Cypher was one of the cards that I was hurting for because I would be able to put cards on top of my deck like Levancia when decks like Dragapult, Dusnoir hit that jamming tower, bring up your Genesect, and then pray. I don't like my opponents praying for whatever we need for my downfall. I want to be able to have exactly the counters that I need. So something like Levancia would be quite helpful in those situations. So you can either go a second copy of Levancia or Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking, or just hope that your opponent never has that play. But as Dragapult Dusnoir players, they've been playing towards that play for pretty much ever, and it ends up working out more often than not. This deck has a lot of strong matchups against the top decks in the metagame, but struggles against a lot of the lower half decks like Ethan's Typhlosion. Will we see how those decks play out at the World Championships? Maybe, but if you're at locals, there's definitely going to be a lot more fire type decks than not, because those decks appeal to a lot of players who are playing in local tournaments. Our silver finalist deck is going to be Gardevoir EX. Now, Gardevoir EX is probably going to be the deck that the absolute best players in the game bring to the World Championships. I'm talking about y'all, Henry Chow, Isaiah Bradner, Cal Connor. Y'all know who you are. Psychic Embrace just creates for some broken gameplay. And I think in a lot of worlds, we're going to see lists very similar to this. I'm on the fence if I want to go 4th Monkey Dory or 3rd Brave Charm, but the Bravery Charm has been helpful against the Joltic Box matchups that are popping out a little bit more, being able to place them on Pokemon like Monkey Dory and Pheasantipity to make it through those late game struggles. And also having Bravery Charm for the Screamtail and Drifloon really allows you to kind of push your limits when it comes to playing this deck. I'm sure we're going to see some broken version of the deck that counters the exact metagame coming from some of the greatest minds, but if we don't, we're probably going to see something very similar to this, and I think a lot of the lists at Worlds are going to look very similar to this. Very common kind of copy of the deck, but as we've kind of gone through and identified what Gardevoir should be looking like, this is really what I think Gardevoir should be looking like right now. But it's not our number 1 deck of the week. I'm sure a lot of y'all can probably guess what it is, but we'll jump into that in just 1 second. Let's see what we have going on. Number 1 deck of the week is Dragapult EX with Dusnoir. Now, this is the version of the deck that has been kind of floating around online for the past few weeks. No real changes here. We did gain Hilda from Black Bolt and White Flare, so we're able to search out our Dracloak, Dusclops, Dragapults, whatever we need for evolution Pokemon, and an energy. And whether we have the Neo Upper Energy or not, it is a way to search out Neo Upper Energy, making this deck just a little bit better than it was before. And sometimes when you take a deck like this and make it a little bit better, it becomes so much better to the point where it's the number 1 deck in the game. There's not too many other decks that have the versatility of this deck, being able to pop your own Pokemon, do extra damage, control if you're able to play Counter Catcher or not, control whether how many cards your opponent's drawing from Iono or not, and of course place your damage counters expertly to be able to overcome whatever we want to overcome. That's not to say that this deck has a perfect matchup spread against everything else. It's slightly unfavored against Guardy. I'd say it's slightly unfavored against Joltic Box, but for every other deck on this list, it does quite well. It's even or above. And I think that Dragapult EX Dusnoir really is the deck that a lot of players are going to be looking towards playing at the 2025 World Championships. So if you haven't played this deck or played against it lately, definitely use this build as a guide, because it is quite literally going to be the list that we can see printed at the World Championships in one of those decks after the event. I hope that you all enjoyed watching this video. Again, if you haven't put anything in the comments, help boost the YouTube algorithm by supporting your boy Zach there. Give this video a like, subscribe to the Shuffle Squad, tell your friends all about the channel. And of course, if you see me at the World Championships, be sure to say what's up. If you're trying to improve your game for upcoming regionals like Monterey or Pittsburgh, or you're trying to do better at locals, hit me up for some coaching at metafy.gg/@ZachLassage. Totally love to catch up with all y'all soon. I'll be back after a short break to be at the World Championships, so stay tuned for more videos coming up later in 2 weeks. Much love, peace out, have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes.
旅の始まりは常に道への一歩である。それは闇へと続く。初めの一歩を踏み出すには勇気がいる。そして旅の終わりには旅を始めた時の自分とは別人になっているかもしれない。旅に出よう。物語の次の章がお主を待っている。将軍の道を歩め。侍の箱と共に。アルティメットガードが送る冒険の第一章。刀将軍の道、近日発売。
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.